One last time around the block for Matchbook's Champions League podcast. Jonathan Wilson and Marco are back on board to preview the big one from Paris on Saturday night as Liverpool and Real Madrid go at it. All right, guys. No point getting on a preamble here, talking back the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. We'll just get straight into it. Let's take a look at the betting for the Saturday night in Paris. Currently, you can back the Reds here at 2.1, Real Madrid at 3.65, the draw available at 3.75, which is 11-4 in fractional terms. It's been a popular bet so far at Matchbook.com. Real Madrid getting a half-goal start. That keeps the draw inside, and you can back that at 1.86, and 2.5 is the total. And as you can see there, it's being nibbled as well at 1.76, and that's so goals expected. Jonathan Wilson, look, we're recording this on Monday ahead of the game on Saturday. There are these couple of doubts with Liverpool, especially. We know we're pretty confident Thiago's out. There's still doubts maybe over Fabinho, Van Dijk. Is it enough to kind of put you off Liverpool, or do you think there's enough strength and depth there anyway?
I mean, look, this is the strongest Liverpool squad that they've had. They're better equipped to deal with the injuries than they have been, but Fabinho is key to them, and Van Dijk is key to them, and Thiago is key to them. Van Dijk, I think, is the big one. I mean, I was at Anfield yesterday, and what you notice is just how vulnerable they are to balls played in behind them when Van Dijk's not there. And I think they play, they live on such a tightrope with that high press, with that high line, and he is brilliant at judging exactly when the line should go and where it should be, and when that's not there, I think they can look really vulnerable. And Wolves could have been. I mean, they scored after 2 minutes. They could have had another couple of goals like that in the first half. Dendoncker put a really good chance just wide, and you sort of when he missed that chance, the thing that's immediately in your head is Benzema's not missing that. And so that is what would concern me, particularly given that when they met, it was last season, wasn't it? How adeptly Toni Kroos was able to hit that space behind Alexander-Arnold. And this is one of the things with the way Liverpool play, and one of the things with Alexander-Arnold, that there is a potential vulnerability behind him. That's not really to do with him; it's to do with the press. And so for people to say, "Oh, yeah, defensively he's not that great," that's not really the point. His job is to get forward down the right, and he's brilliant at it. And his crosses are a key part of how they attack. And his link up with Salah is essential. And that triangle of the two of them and Henderson is really key to how they play. So there's always going to be space behind him. The point is you protect that with the press. And when the press goes awry, and Liverpool's press last season, because the midfield were all playing in defence because the defence was all injured, that press wasn't right. And that's also, I think, why Alexander-Arnold isn't a fit for England, because to get that press that sophisticated and that coordinated is really difficult. It takes a long, long time. And I understand why Gareth Southgate thinks he'd rather have a slightly more conservative option at right back. So if Van Dijk isn't there, that does concern me a lot, having seen just how easily Wolves found to pick away through them. But I think the indications are that he should be fit, because he's been on the bench last 2 games, just hasn't been needed.
Mark, just with Real Madrid, I mean, look, we kind of opposed them in different ways the last couple of weeks, against City, obviously in the semi-final, and against Chelsea. What do you make of this one? Is like, in my opinion, I think that the step up might be a bit too much for them here. You could look at it different ways, that they may be just this team of destiny or whatever else, but eventually that kind of bit of luck should run out somewhere.
Yeah, you'd think that really, but it hasn't so far. And this is knockout football. In a one-off game, anything is possible, and there's always a chance. But Liverpool are, I think, taking up the 6th of the available 10 Champions League final slots in terms of being a Premier League team in the last 5 finals now. So 6 of them have been Premier League teams. 2 of those have been La Liga teams, and Real Madrid on both occasions. So there has been a power shift, quite an obvious power shift away from La Liga to the Premier League. And I do think this is a very difficult match for Madrid, who have performed minor miracles to get here so far. I don't want to be disrespectful, but because when you do see their starting 11 and you see, they're not exactly lacking in star quality and ability and experience and character. They've proven time and again that, even on the canvas, they can fight their way back in. But if you wanted to sort of name your Madrid MVPs this season, clearly everyone's going to say Benzema number 1, might say Modric. Vinicius has really matured. Militao and Alaba formed a really nice partnership at centre-half. But to be quite frank about it, Courtois has probably been their second best player this season, not just domestically, but in Europe as well. And the fact he's getting talked about, that kind of shows that they're nowhere near as dominant as a Man City or Liverpool can be. So, That's my interpretation of the situation. Anyhow, there are going to be threats, and Jonathan's talked about the balls in behind in counterattacks and transitions if Liverpool don't get their press right and the offside trap exactly right. Some dead ball situations, of course. Karim Benzema in open play, but yeah, I give Liverpool a reasonable edge here. I think they are the strongest suit, and I am working on the assumption that both Van Dijk and Salah and Fabinho all play. Fabinho was in training, so I expect him. I think Klopp said he's going to be joining the group this week, and I think it's different for Liverpool, who have looked a little bit fatigued in recent weeks. But I think one-off game in Paris, you're not travelling too far. Champions League final, Real Madrid. I think those players can raise themselves for sort of one last hurrah, if you like. And I think the price is interesting. Liverpool 2.1 here on neutral territory against Real Madrid. Man City with the same price away at Real Madrid in the second leg of their Champions League tie, despite winning the first leg and not actually requiring to win that second leg. So, if you sort of simplify things, the market's saying Liverpool has much chance of beating Real Madrid in Paris as City had in the Bernabeu when they didn't need to win. And personally, I know the market thinks differently, but I think not just myself, but I think most football fans would say that the gap between City and Liverpool has closed a lot in the last 9 months, particularly the last 6 months. The squad that Liverpool have at their disposal, the options they will have on their bench. There's game changers, there's ability, there's experience, and there's a belief and momentum really around Liverpool right now. Who I think they're a fair enough price to go and win this match in 90 minutes, but it's probably not the bet I would select. But they've drifted a little bit since the opening show, and I think that's probably due to the injuries that they did have at the time. There was a chance that Van Dijk and Salah would be missing, as well as Fabinho, but they seem to be in much healthier shape than they are now.
Jonathan, just in terms of what Mark mentioned in regards to Liverpool potential fatigue with this team, you also look at the flip side of it. Real Madrid have obviously wrapped up the La Liga title a good couple of weeks ago. Even on Friday night, they just looked like they were going through the absolute motions. There is potentially the danger too that they have kind of wrapped that up. That you got to pick it up now, and that's not always so easy. Whereas Liverpool obviously are just playing to win every game.
Yeah, I think that issue of fatigue or sort of losing intensity with the title already wrapped up, I think that's very, very hard to know which way it'll go. And you're right, it could go either way. I think it's good Liverpool have a full week off. I think, although in the end it didn't matter, it's probably good that they beat Wolves. I think, say City had drawn and Liverpool had drawn, I think there'd have been a real sense of
that's fair.
We've missed a chance. Whereas Liverpool did what they had to do, and they were a little bit. I guess if they are going to criticise themselves, it would be that if they got the second goal before the City comeback had begun, maybe that would have just added a little bit of pressure. And there were times, particularly early in that second half, when Liverpool were a little bit frantic and lacking a bit of precision. And that's why I think Thiago is important to them, albeit probably not quite as important as Van Dijk. That he does give them that control in midfield. And I think the way Real Madrid have got through the knockout stage has essentially been to turn games into chaos. And in the chaos, a Modric or Benzema can shine. But Liverpool thrive on chaos. So I don't think they'll be worried about that. But they have sort of lost the weapon they have that can just sort of calm things down again.
Just one more thing just before we get to actually asking you guys your selections this game, Jonathan. I want to get your thoughts on the fact that, Klopp has obviously really extols the virtue of the 5 substitutions in the Champions League, and it's been to their benefit, as Mark said, their squad depth. But Real Madrid, in fairness, when you look at when bringing in Camavinga and Rodrigo, the last couple of games, they've made a massive difference. Is there anything to be said that, you could start one or two of these guys and maybe just go at it? Because I kind of feel with Liverpool, I think unless you hit them early, they're not a great team to kind of play catch up with.
Yeah, Liverpool on the break, I think are better than City, certainly, and they could catch Real Madrid like that. I think you look back at the Clásico when Barcelona won 4-0 against Real Madrid, and you think that midfield can be pressed and they can be physically outmatched, and maybe Camavinga can help protect against that. I have to say, I'd be surprised if he started. I think he's somebody to bring on to give them a renewed energy. I think it'll be, assuming they're all fit, I think it'll be the familiar Casemiro, Kroos, Modric. I think Kroos, I guess, is the one who might miss out, that he maybe just lacks a little bit of physicality. But his importance when Real Madrid beat Liverpool last season was such that I think they'd be reluctant to change that. And I think if Real Madrid are going to beat Liverpool, it's got to be with balls from deep to Vinicius breaking behind Alexander-Arnold. I think that's the obvious way for them to go about it.
And we're probably thinking Alaba is probably the most likely guy to be brought back in, although natural in fairness in the semi-final against City I thought he was great in the second leg. Mark, in terms of away in here, I know you want to be with Liverpool. Are you going to take them at the 2.1 or are you going to compare them with a goals better? What's the angle?
Yeah, I'm going to compare it with add in a goals-based angle here. Just on Real Madrid, they've played obviously 2 Premier League teams in the previous 2 rounds. Across those 4 matches, they've conceded almost 10 expected goals, or around about 10 XG, accumulated 5 themselves. So that's a decent difference between the two. And I think the obvious thing from those 4 ties is both Chelsea and Man City left 5 big chances, missed 5 big chances across the 2 ties. So 10 big chances went missing really in those 4 games. A big chance deemed when an attacker has a reasonable expectation of scoring. So I don't think that's through any particular design by Real Madrid. It's just a bit of luck and supreme finishing at their end to get this far. So as a punter, I think you've got the option to back Liverpool -1/4 if what you saw in the FA Cup final and the league final against Chelsea kind of concerns you. Really, it just guards a little bit against the draw there. You get your half stake back if the game ends all square and goes to extra time. But I can see why that might appeal. But yeah, I think the leap actually from Liverpool to win 2.1 to Liverpool to win under 4.5 goals at 2.58 was quite a large one, really, considering all the correct scores you get on your side: 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1, and 3-1. So all the key and obvious outcomes, really, if you're backing a Liverpool win. Never enjoyable opposing goals in the Liverpool game, it must be said. But I did some research, really, and I think going back to the early 1960s across the Champions League and the European Cup finals, we only had 3 games feature 5 or more goals. Now, funnily enough, all 3 of those matches actually featured either Liverpool or Real Madrid. Yeah. One in the 60s, obviously the Istanbul game for Liverpool, and Madrid beating Juve 4-1 not so long ago. Now, these two obviously met in a final 4 years ago, and there was 4 goals. And then you chuck in the first leg of what happened with Man City and Real Madrid, and I guess there is a bit of doubt there. But I just think that price, 2.58, is too big. It is a final. I always think that the goal trends tend to go down slightly. The goal expectation for this match is 2.85, which feels a little bit high. But yeah, if you just take that price in isolation, it's implying that there's just a 39% chance of Liverpool winning this match and featuring fewer than 5 goals. And I think that's slightly kind of underplaying things. I think Liverpool can be quite controlled if they need to be. And I would suspect we don't see something quite as chaotic as we saw in the first leg at the Etihad, and something what we saw probably similar to the previous 2 rounds against Chelsea and PSG is more likely. But there we go.
Yeah, it's actually 2.64 mark on that selection. But as I say that, it was literally just nibbled off the side there. But we'll get it back up to 2.64. So obviously somebody's watching and betting as well, which you'll love to see. Jonathan Wilson, I think you're with Mark in this one in terms of Liverpool, but you're looking at it from kind of a slightly different angle.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's point about finals, I think, is a very apt one, and that's what makes me slightly hesitant. But I felt Liverpool, even with Van Dijk, have looked worryingly open at times this season. When you have a finisher as good as Benzema, when you have Vinicius playing as well as he has, I think you can certainly see Real Madrid scoring. And defensively, I just don't trust Real Madrid. So 5 of their 6 Champions League knockout games, they've had more than 2.5 goals in them. And that's with them actually being quite lucky in terms of the opposition not taking chances. Salah, I think, is not in great form, but he did score on Sunday. Mane, I think, is looking in very good form. I think Liverpool pose a threat from set plays. Half of their knockout games have featured more than 2.5 goals, but one of those was the 2-0 against Villarreal when it probably should have been more. One of them was, the other 2 were both against Inter. The first leg, fine, but that was them playing fairly cautiously, winning 2-0. The second leg, they was already through. So, there's brackets around that one. So, yes, there's the final factor, but I don't see how this can be a cagey game, because if Real Madrid try and play like they did away against PSG, they will get blown away. They must know that. So yeah, Liverpool to win more than 2.5, which I think is 3. Is that right? Which seemed very generous.
3.2 even. Yeah,
3.2, which is. I mean, that makes me uneasy to start with, but give me my reasoning and.
I did look at the goals, Jonathan, and going back to the start of the Champions League era, there's been 29 finals. I was surprised by this, but 15 of those have featured over 2.5 goals. 17 saw both teams scoring, and the average goals per game comes in at 2.59, which is probably slightly higher than your
Right.
average kind of showpiece final.
Yeah, I mean, and in knockout, the knockout stage up to 2007, the summer of 2007, there was only one season where the knockout stage averaged more than 3 goals a game since 2007. So basically, since Guardiola arrived in football, there's only been one season when it hasn't been over 3 goals per game. So yes, finals are slightly different, but generally the trend is for lots of goals in Champions League knockout games. I think these big teams, to an extent, have forgotten how to defend. It's it's not the attritional days of Mourinho and Benitez anymore.
Who's the goal scorer bet also, Jonathan? If you're looking at, because we've gone against Danny Carvajal a couple of times. Obviously, look, the second leg against Madrid, he was pretty decent, but one swallow doesn't make a summer. If it's Mane, or if it's Diaz on that left side, they're going to give him a whole lot of trouble, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, it's difficult because Diaz obviously been so good, and Firmino seems very much the fifth of the five now.
Yeah.
But I have to say that matchup, I'd really like to see Mane taking on Carvajal because I think he would absolutely destroy him. That said, I mean, Diaz certainly has the capacity to destroy him. So I think it will be Diaz, Mane, Salah. But that's definitely an option for later on to, if it's not going right for Liverpool, to move Mane out to put him straight up against Carvajal. And in terms of pace, he will fly past him.
Yeah, thinking as much. All right, let's recap what we have. So Mark's selection is Liverpool and under 4.5 goals. That's currently available at 2.64 at matchbook.com. If you want to go an alternative way for a bigger price, Liverpool to win and over 2.5 goals is Jonathan's selection. All right, guys, we're out of time. My thanks to Mark, Jonathan. Great efforts all season, guys. Thanks so much. Thank you for watching, or if you're listening today. If you have enjoyed our content throughout the season for the Champions League and our other podcasts, please leave us a preferential review on your preferred podcast app. Or if you're on YouTube and watching us now, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and we'll see you in the new season. Jonathan, Mark, thanks as ever, guys. Pleasure as always. Until next season, goodbye for now, and best of luck with your Champions League final bets.